Welcome to 5 and 5 from One Stop Co-op Shop, where we discuss 5 key design decisions about a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today we're looking at Perdition's Mouth from Dragon Dawn Productions. Quick disclaimer that I did receive a review copy of this game. Perdition's Mouth had never really been on my radar. I knew it was a dungeon crawler, I knew it had a rondel, but that was about it. But several participants on our Slack said it was among their favorite dungeon crawlers of all time, and I had to give it a try. So does its unique mechanics and tactical sensibilities put it above the pack? Let's find out and get to the list. We're going to start out with a con, although it does have a silver lining, and that's how the enemies activate in the game. The enemies have their own rondel, and this is the part I like. You can see at a glance what they are likely to do, either moving, attacking, or summoning more enemies. And you draw a card at the beginning of their turn, and that determines not only how many actions they do, but also whether they progress further along the rondel or even go backwards sometimes and surprise you with an unexpected action. All of that is cool. It gives you a mix of strategy and randomness that can be really fun, but here's where the con comes in. The cards in the deck have very widely ranging values. They go up to 5 in the standard deck, and even in the so-called low luck deck, they still go up to 4. And the difference here can be huge based on the luck of the draw. If you draw a -1, a 0, or a 1, you're doing a single activation for every monster on the board. But if you draw a 4 or a 5, you're doing that many activations or spawns with every monster on the board. So you can have 5 times the activation just on which card comes out. Next we'll get into a mix, which is unfortunately going to lean to a con for I think a lot of people, and that's how the campaign in the game is handled. There are some cool permanent elements to the campaign, in that if you let cultists escape or you destroy nests, you create more danger for yourself going forward. If characters get injuries, they stay in their deck. It's kind of cool how you feel like things are getting tougher and more desperate each mission you complete, and it all kind of builds to a big climax. But on the negative side, and I think this could be a big negative for a lot of people, the only way that your characters so-called level up is by getting items, but those are generally one use or limited use or not that inspiring, and there is nothing else really besides maybe rescuing victims. Additionally, another thing that pushes this mix a bit toward the con is that I don't think the variety is that great. The campaign has branching scenarios, but they aren't really that different. Mostly they just kind of change up one rule or put monsters in a different place. There's not that many different enemies. There's just, the gameplay is fairly repetitive, so you will feel like you've seen this before as you go through the basic 9-mission campaign. For number 3, we get to our first pro, and that is the rondel for the player actions in the game. Heroes occupy these little pegs on spokes around the rondel, and each part of the rondel is dedicated to a different action. And on your turn, you can spend action points to go around the rondel. But first of all, you can't go where another hero is, and actually you can give them discounts by having them leap over you to go to the next spot. And also, the further you go, the fewer action points you'll have left, so the less effective your action will generally be. So this leads to a lot of cool cooperation and tactical decision making. Can I set up an action that'll help someone else go? Another big pro, our number 2, are the character cards. So for each of the heroes in the game, you get 7 in the revised edition. They have a unique deck of cards and also a unique power to themselves. In a way kind of similar to Mage Knight, you can use the cards to boost specific types of actions, but then you can also use any card to boost an action a little bit. So you have a great diversity in how you use the resources of these cards to make your movement and your attack and your defense better. But the thing is, you don't redraw at the end of your turn. You barely draw new cards at all. So these are a very finite resource unless you take the rest action to get all your stuff back. So managing those resources, helping other heroes out because you can aid them in a lot of ways, is just a really cool addition to the puzzle. But we are going to end with a mix that could make or break this game for a lot of people, and kind of like the campaign play, I do think this is going to tend to edge toward con for the average gamer, and that's the sort of tactical movement and puzzle of the board itself. So unlike a lot of dungeon crawlers, movement in Perdition's Mouth is super limited. You can only move orthogonally, you can't move past your own characters, you can't move past enemy characters, and things can feel a lot more static and less dynamic than most games you might play in this genre. Then in some scenarios, and really in any scenario where you have a lot of enemies on the board, they can get really clogged up in the tunnels. It can become kind of a mess to move them all around and figure out what order they go in. On the other hand, all this increases the puzzly feel of the game and the strategic planning you can put into your turn. So I think some gamers are going to love this, but the average dungeon crawl fan might just feel like things don't move as quickly and as fluidly as they would like. So overall, as you can probably tell from my points, Perdition's Mouth is kind of a mix for me. I do like that it's changing things up. I love the interplay of the rondel and the character cards, even if the board positioning itself can feel a little bit static. But I wish the campaign had more variety. I wish they hadn't gone with such a doom and gloom, get worse and worse feeling to it. So I know some types of gamers are going to love this game, and as I already said, many people on the Slack say it's their favorite dungeon crawler of all time. But for me, comparing it to something like Descent 2nd Edition with the app, or Gloomhaven, or even a really simple game like Zombicide Invader, I don't really prefer Perdition's Mouth. I feel like it's a little bit too challenging, a little bit too obtuse, and it doesn't give me a lot of the pleasure that other games in the genre do. So it could be a great game for you, but it's really going to depend on what your preferences are. Good gaming, everyone, and I'll see you at the next stop.